Dear students, through this session, we are going to study about the lesson The Little Girl. Look at here, the adjective little is going to describe the word girl and she is small, right? Let us go through author's introduction. Who is the author of this lesson? Author of this lesson is Catherine Mansfield. Who is she? Kathleen Mansfield Murray was a prominent modernist writer. See, prominent is very important. Very important. The age of modern age. Writer who was born and brought up were in New Zealand. She wrote short stories and poetry under the pen. So, what is this? This is what? The pen name of Kathleen Mansfield Murray. So, her pen name is Catherine Mansfield. Let us go to the lesson. Before you read, do you feel you know your parents better now than when you were much younger? Here, comparison. I mean, we must compare. Like you must compare your parents, the behavior of your parents as compared with when you were younger. How do they react now and how did they react at a time when you were younger? So, what is the difference? Perhaps you now understand. So, you understood very clear now. How? The reason behind this kind of actions. Some of their actions that used to upset you earlier. See, earlier time when you are younger, towards your behavior and all, your parents used to show somewhat actions when you behave properly. I mean, when you are not behaving proper way. So at the time, your parents used to show somewhat actions towards you in order to control your behavior and all. So at the time, you might have upset it, right? But here it is very clear. Now it is very clear. You came to know what is the reason behind this, right? This story is about little girl whose feelings for her father changed from fear to understand. Understanding will probably find an echo in every home. Here, what does this statement say? Is this story about a little girl? No doubt, a little girl whose feelings for her father. So, little girl might have somewhat feelings about father, and that feelings. So, which are those feelings? We don't know. Feelings change from fear. Yes, fear to understanding. So, earlier, a kind of feeling. What is the feeling? Feeling of frightened towards father, and that becomes chained. How? And this is the same behavior we can find wherein every home, right? Let us go through the lesson. To the little girl, he was a figure to be feared. So what do you mean by figure to be feared? Here is given a person to be feared. To the little girl, for the little girl, to the little girl who is fear, he was fear. He refers to father, right? Father of this little girl, and avoid it. Every morning before going to work, he came. He refers to father. He came into her room. Her room, this little girl, right? Room, and gave her a casual kiss. What do you mean by casual? A kind of showing much care. So about about his daughter, to which she responded. So in reply, she used to say that goodbye, father. And oh, there was a glad sense of relief. So at the time, when she said, when she said him about goodbye, there's a sense of relief, that when she heard the noise of the carriage growing fainter and fainter down the long road. Here, carriage, as the carriage moves forward, the noise of the carriage becomes fainter and fainter, fainter and fainter, in the sense weaker and weaker. So you cannot hear clearly. So that made this girl happy. I mean, kind of a sense of relief, because uh, for her, father becomes a kind of frightened figure. That is the way the writer is going to explain this lesson with the very first paragraph. Let us move forward. In the evening, when he came home, so after his work, when he came to home, she stood near the staircase. Where she is standing? Near the staircase, and heard his loud voice in the hall. She heard his loud voice, "Bring my tea into the drawing room." Look at this, uh, the sentence. So, what kind of the sentence it is? It's we have four kinds of sentences, right? Interrogative, assertive, then interrogative. One more. What is that? Which kind is that? It's about a request, right? Request, even sometimes a command. So what we can call those kind of sentences, right? So we can say that imperative sentence. Bring my tea into the drawing room. That means that he is going to give an order to the person who lived in the house. Hasn't the paper come yet? Hasn't the paper come yet? Look at the question. Yes or no question, right? Mother, go and see my papers out there and bring me my slippers. This is what commanding praises is given by the father to the person who lived in the family. I mean, family members, right? Next, Kezia, mother would call her. Her mother called her as Kezia. Kezia is the name of the little girl. If you are a good girl, you can come down and take off father's boots. Where is she at the time? She was there in wherein the staircase, right? And her mother says her to come down, and in order to remove father's boots. Slowly the girl would slip down. Slip down, what do you mean by slip down? Come down quietly and unwillingly. She is not interested to come to meet, to encounter with her father, because uh, he was a figure to be feared. I mean, for her, he was a kind of person who showed a kind of behavior of fearful and all, right? And what she is doing is she is slowly still across the hall. In this way, she came nearby the hall and pushed open the drawing room door. In this way, she came nearby the drawing room. By the time he had his spectacles on and looked at her over them in a way that was terrifying the girl. Look at this. At the time when she came nearby her father, when he noticed her, a kind of terrifying behavior is shown towards this little girl. In this way, she frightened a lot by looking her father. Well, Kezia, hurry up and full of these woods and take them outside. Look at the command here. The command is given by her father to this little girl. Have you been a good girl today? Look at this. Yes or no question. Your father is going to convince her at first by showing a kind of order. After that, is going to give some kind of concern. But in reply, what is the reply of Kezia? Don't know, father. Look at this stuttering voice. That means she was frightened about father. Let's move on. Don't know? If you stutter like that, mother will have to take you to the doctor. Look at here. Father told her, if you show this kind of stuttering behavior while speaking with him, her mother will take her to the doctor, he said. She never stuttered with other people. But here, she never stuttered with other people. But this is the first time. This is the first and this is the second. Why? Because whenever she speaks with father, she used to stutter like this because of fear. Had quite given it up. While speaking with people, she had stopped her behavior about stuttering and all, but only with father. But only with father, she used to continue the same behavior of stuttering while speaking with him because of fear. Because then she was trying to so hard to say the words properly. She is trying a lot in order to say very hard manner with him, but it's highly impossible to her to come that kind of a sense of attitude. What's the matter? What are you looking so wretched about? Mother, I wish you taught this child not to appear on the brink of suicide. Here, Kezia, carry my teacup back to the table carefully. Look at this. These are the words of her father. As Kezia showed her stuttering way of talking. I mean, stutter. What do you mean by stutter? Stutter in the sense of speak with difficulty. When she showed a kind of behavior towards him, he got anger. That's why he said, "What's the matter? What are you looking so wretched about?" Wretched about in the sense unhappy. Kezia looked unhappy. That's why he is asking with Kezia what happened to her and all. In the same, he used to talk with his mother to teach her about not to appear like this. I mean, the writer used on the brink of suicide. On the brink of suicide in the sense about to commit suicide. Here, Kezia's reaction, Kezia's attitude when she is standing nearby him, the body language shows that about commit suicide. I mean, in her life, there is no hopefulness and all. That is the way Kezia is standing nearby him. That's why he used to order to his mother to teach appear like in a good manner. Here, Kezia carry up teacup back to the table carefully. In this way, he told Kezia, right? Let's move to next paragraph. He was so big, his hands and his neck, especially his mouth when he yawned. Thinking about him alone was like thinking about a giant. See, this is what description about Kezia's father. Who described? Kezia is going to describe his appearance. How he was? He was so big. His hands and his neck, especially his mouth, when he yawned. When he yawned, look at this. Thinking about him alone was like thinking about a giant. What do you mean by giant? A very great person. I mean, great in the sense, in what way? A very huge person, very huge, very large. We can take the word monster. Here, Kezia is going to compare his father with monster by the appearance about his hands, his neck, his mouth. Got it? So, in this way, Kezia is going to compare him with monster. Then, on Sunday afternoon, on Sunday afternoons, grandmother sent her down to the drawing room to have a nice talk with father and mother. But the little girl always found mother reading and father stretched out on the sofa, his handkerchief on his face, his feet on one of the best cushions, sleeping soundly and snoring. Look at here, fourth paragraph is about on Sunday afternoons, usually having holidays. That's why grandma of Kezia sent Kezia to down to the drawing room to speak with parents. So who are they? Father and mother, right? But what happened there? When she sent her to the drawing room, what is that picture? The picture is very clear. What are they doing? But the little girl always found, she noticed always, mother reading and father stretched out on the sofa. Look at this image. When she came there in order to speak with both, but what are they doing? Mother is reading, father is sleeping, right? His handkerchief on his face. That means that nobody should not disturb him while sleeping. His feet on one of the best cushions, sleeping soundly and snoring. Snoring, what do you mean by snoring? Breath. I mean, breathe noisily while sleeping. You might have known about this kind of behavior while person is sleeping, right? So in this way, Kezia's father is sleeping. Then Kezia came there to speak with both. Both of them are busy in their actions, right? Let's move on. Look at the image here. Here is Kezia. He is looking towards parents. Your mother is reading. Father is sleeping with soundly and snoring. In this way, this girl Kezia becomes disappointed by looking this image. Let's move on. She sat on stool, gravely watched him until he woke and stretched. Look at here. Here, Kezia came there and sat on a stool gravely. What do you mean by gravely? Gravely in the sense deep and rough. Watched. She watched them deeply, right? Until he woke up. Until he woke up and stretched. Asked the time. When he got up from his sleeping, he used to ask time, then looked at her. After asking time, he looked towards Kezia, but Don't stare so, Kezia. You look like a little brown owl. Here, Kezia is compared with brown colored owl. Look at here. Look at the comparison used by the father. Father becomes very strict to Kezia. That's why father compare herself, Kezia, to the brown owl, because Kezia won't speak with father whenever father is meeting with her, and she used to stare in the sense continuous look, staring at him. That's why he compared her to brown owl. Next, one day when she was kept indoors with a cold, her grandmother told her that father's birthday was next week and suggested she should make him a pin cushion for a gift out of a beautiful piece of yellow silk. Here, Kezia's mother, I mean Granny, she gave a kind of suggestion in order to celebrate father's birthday. It is going to celebrate next week. She suggested her to make a pin cushion by using some of the materials to give to hand over as a gift on account of his birthday. What happened next? Laboriously. What do you mean by laboriously? With a lot of effort or difficulty. With a lot of effort. With a double cotton. The light, the little girl stitched three sides in the sense by taking this cloth, she stitched three sides, so one side is kept remain in order to fill something to knit. But what to fill it with? So here Kezia questioned herself what to fill inside this cotton material. That was the question. The grandmother was out. So at the time, if she wanted to ask grandmother, but she is not there, she went outside. Where is she? She is in the garden. And she wandered into mother's bedroom to look for scrapes. What do you mean by scrapes? Scrapes, in the sense, here is given small pieces of cloth or paper, etc., that are not needed. Waste paper, I think. So, scrapes needed in order to fill in it, right? On the bed table, she went to mother's bedroom. On the bed table, she discovered a great many sheets of fine paper, gathered them up, tore them into tiny pieces. What she did? She went there and collected. She gathered all the fine paper, sheets of fine paper. What she did? Tore them, making small, tiny pieces, and stuffed. What do you mean by stuffed? Stuffed in the sense? Let's move on. That night, there was A hue and cry. What do you mean by hue and cry? Angry protest. Hue and cry in the house. Father's great speech for the port authority had been lost. Rooms were searched, servants questioned. Finally, mother came into Kezia's room. So, this is what happened because of Kezia's reason when she took some more paper from mother's bedroom. So that are these paper is um, linked with father's great speech. So those paper contain father's great speech for the port authority, but those papers torn, those papers uh, have been torn by Kezia, and that are stuffed. Those papers are stuffed in her case. But in reply, so what happened there? It's a question. Then what happened at the final stage? Mother came into Kezia's room. So what happened next? Kezia, I suppose you didn't see some papers on a table in our room. Here she is going to asking with her about the papers, whether she noticed or not. Oh yes, she said. She replied positively. I tore them up for my surprise. What is that surprise? Surprise is that gift which she wanted to give on account of his birthday. So, for that purpose, she tore them up. Right? What? Screamed mother. Look at this kind of sudden feeling, screaming, making loud noise by saying, what? Come straight down to the dining room this instant. Immediately, she asked her to come to the dining room. And she was dragged down to where father was pacing to and fro, hands behind his back. See, what do you mean by to and fro? To and fro, in the sense, what we can say that a kind of idiom is used backwards and forwards. See, when people are in trouble or tension, they used to making this kind of behavior and actions like backwards and forwards moving by taking their hands behind their back and all. So in this way, they were showing their a kind of tension, right? Well, he said sharply. Mother explained. He stopped and stared at the child. So your father is going to give a kind of look, a frightened look, a very fearful look to Kezia. Did you do that? No, 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 she whispered. In this way, she replied negatively because she doesn't want to see father's anger, right? Mother, go up to her room and fetch down the damned thing. See that the child's put to bed in this instant. Her mother, what she said, go up to her room. She told him to go and fetch down the damned thing. What is the damned thing? What she has prepared. That is what damned thing. See that child's put to bed in this instant. Let's move on. Crying too much to explain. She lay in the shadowed room watching the evening light make a sad little pattern on the floor. See, this is what a kind of a description in order to describe about the situation that girl is facing, right? Because uh, she is crying. Why? Because father is scolding, right? Scolding, and he used to threatening, right? This way, that daylight, I mean, evening light made her very sad. This is a clear picture or image to understand how Kezia is facing that kind of situation at the time. Then father came into the room with a ruler. Ruler, in the sense, a kind of stick is used to punish somebody. In his hands, I'm going to beat you for this. So, what do you mean by this? This kind of behavior. What is the behavior? Is taking something and to tone and all. For that reason, he is going to beat her. Oh no, no! She screamed. In this way, she is screamed a kind of negative feeling. She doesn't want to take any punishment from her father. Hiding under the bed clothes. In this way, she is going to hide herself. He pulled them aside. Sit up, he ordered, and hold out your hands. You must be taught once and for all not to touch what does not belong to you. So, in this way, he is going to control her behavior, and it is already taught before about what is not related to her thing and all. She won't, she doesn't want to touch those things. But here, he is going to give a kind of lesson in the form of punishment, not to touch anything and all. But it was for your birthday. She finally gave answer, reply, what she has done, it is for his birthday. Down came the ruler on her little pink palms. In this way, uh, when uh, when he heard from her, he doesn't want to beat her. Hours later, when grandmother had wrapped her in a shawl and rocked her in the rocking chair, the child clung to her soft body. Here, grandma is going to give kind of care, concern about a grandchild, because grandchild is frightened a lot about the father's action. That's why she is going to convince her. What did God make fathers for? She sobbed. Sobbed in the sense crying noisily. While crying noisily, she asked her granny, what is the question? What did God make fathers for? Here, fathers. She doesn't want to have father. In that sense, she asked her. Here's a clean hanky. What do you mean by hanky? Hanky in the sense a handkerchief, right? Here is a hanky. Hanky, yes, it's about a handkerchief. While she is crying, her mother gave hanky in order to rub her face. Here is hanky, darling. Blow your nose. Yes, it's about a handkerchief is given by her grandma in order to blow her nose. When the mucus is coming out while crying, in order to clean her nose, she gave hanky, I mean handkerchief. Go to sleep, pet. You'll forget all about it in the morning, right? I tried to explain to father, but he was too upset to listen tonight. So tonight be because of his reaction, he won't convince about this situation. That's why she used to convince her to sleep, and she will get morning, the morning time, she will try to explain about the situation because his father is upset. Let's move on. But the child never forgot. She won't forget this. Next time she saw him, she quickly put both hands behind her back, and a red color flew into her cheeks. But the child never forgot. Next time she saw him, she quickly put both hands behind her back. When she noticed him, this is what the reaction about this girl. What she did is she took her hands behind her back, and red color flew into her cheeks because of fear. Because of fear, she did this action there. The McDonald's lived next door. The McDonald's, like I told you, like I taught in this very article, a kind of grammar section I took in that last week. There I told you about whenever person's name is used by the definite article the, right? It's about family. Here, the McDonald's, in the sense, it's about McDonald's family lived next door. They had 5 children. How many? 5 children. Looking through a gap is a kind of hole is presented in that wall, that fence. In the fence, the little girl saw them playing tag. What do you mean by tag? Tag means that a children's game of catching one another. So kind of game is played there. In the evening time, the father with the baby Mavu. What do you mean by Mavu? Mavu, the name of the person, the baby's name there. Mavu on his shoulders. So on his shoulders, who stood? Mavu, the baby, right? Two little girls hanging on to his coat pockets ran around and round the flower beds, shaking with laughter. Once she saw the boys turn the horse on him, and he tried to catch them, laughing all the time. See, in this way, McDonald's family is playing game there with happiness. But this girl, Kezia, she watched all this thing through that gap, a gap in the fence from her house. Then it was she decided there were different sorts of fathers. In this way, by looking this the McDonald's family, she felt that there are different sorts of father in this world. Suddenly one day, mother became ill, and she and grandmother went to hospital. As mother became ill, mother and grandmother went to hospital. The little girl was left alone. She was alone there at home in the house with Alice. Alice, the cook, name of the cook. With cook, she was there at home. That was all right in the daytime. Daytime, no problem. That's fine. So what happened next? Look at the picture here. Here, Kezia is looking this picture through this hole in this fence. Here, you can notice Mao is standing, right? Sitting. at his shoulders. And for children, they are moving around him, right? Let's move on. But while Alice was putting her to bed, she grew suddenly afraid. He is holding her in his shoulders in order to make her to sleep. But when he put her on the bed, she grew suddenly afraid. She immediately got a sense, a kind of uh, feeling about fearful. What what will I do if I have a nightmare? What do you mean by nightmare? A bad dream. Because of her fearness, right? Fear. She asked, I often have nightmares. Often, in the sense, usually, all the time, many times, right? And then Granny takes me into her bed. So, whenever uh, she had nightmares, Granny took her into bed. I can't stay in the dark. It all gets whispery. What do you mean by whispery? Whispery in the sense as a soft, a low voice is presented at the time of night, and she doesn't want to listen such kind of noise at the time of night. That's why she is saying to this cook about this problem. You just go to sleep, child, said Alice. In this way, Alice convinced this girl to sleep, pulling off her socks. In this way, he pull off her socks from her feet. And don't you scream and wake your poor pa in the sense about father, right? Here he is giving kind of warning, kind of request to this Kezia not to scream to wake her father. Let's move on. But the same old nightmare, what is that? The nightmare often she had. The butcher. Who is that butcher? What do you mean by butcher? Butcher, in the sense, a person who cuts meat. The butcher with a knife. Look at here, butcher with a knife and a rope and knife, who came nearer and nearer. Where is he? He came nearer and nearer, along with knife and rope, smiling. So, how? That dreadful smile. Dreadful. What do you mean by dreadful? Dreadful in the sense, a kind of a frightened way of smile. A very rough smile it is. While she could not move, when he came nearer and nearer towards Kezia, along with knife and rope, and also dreadful smile, while she could not move, and she could not move at the time, could only stand still. She cannot move, she cannot run from that direction. I mean, the where that butcher came, crying out, Grandma, Grandma! She woke, shivering, a slight way of shaking her hands and her body because of fear about this butcher who has a knife, knife and rope in his hands. To see father beside her bed, a candle in his hand. So at the time, where is he? Father. Father is there. Where? Beside her bed, along with candle in his hand. What's the matter? He asked. He said to girl, Kezia. Oh, a butcher, a knife. I want granny. When she woke up from that dream, she used to utter these these words, these phrases, right? He blew out the candle. He blew out the candle, bent down, and caught up the child in his arms, carrying her along the passage to the bedroom. In this way, he took Kezia in his shoulders in order to make her calm, in order to make her convinced about this dream. So, what kind of the dream it is? Nightmare, a bad dream. A newspaper was on the bed. He put away the paper, then carefully tucked up the child. Tucked up in the sense covered up nicely in bed. He lay down beside her, half asleep, still with the butcher's smile. Half asleep in the sense when she started to sleep, that middle of the sleep, she watched the butcher's smile all about her. It seemed she crept close to him, snuggled. What do you mean by snuggled? Moved into warm, comfortable position close to another person. So when she is sleeping with father, she is to snuggled, comfortable about her dream and all. Her head under his arm, held tightly to his shirt because of this dreadful smile, knife, and rope of this butcher. Then the dark did not matter. Why? Because father is with her. That's why this dark did not matter at all. She lay still. Here, rub your feet against my legs and get them warm, said father. Because of this dream, she felt nervous. That's why he wanted to make her warm. That's why he said to rub her feet to his legs. Let's move on. Tired out, she slept before the little girl. In this way, he also slept with sleep slept before the little girl. A funny feeling came over her. Poor father, not so big after all, and with no one to look after him, he was harder than grandmother, but it was a nice hardness. So, what is that nice hardness? So, when she sleeping while sleeping with him, she came to know that his hardness. Earlier, he is harder, but this hardness is nice. And every day he had to work and was too tired to be a Mr. MacDonald. She had torn up all his beautiful writing. She had torn off all his beautiful writing in the sense while she is preparing about pine cushion, fine cushion, right? Pink colored one. She stirred suddenly and sighed by thinking about this situation, sighed because of fear when he scolded her about a tone that those uh, sheets of fine papers and all. What's the matter? Asked her father. Another dream. What is that? It is about another dream when she had torn up all his beautiful writings and all. She stirred suddenly. So while she's tearing all the pages of his writings, beautiful writings and all. See, it's about another dream. When she is having this dream, suddenly he asks, "What's the matter?" In this way, she woke up. "Oh," said the little girl, "my head's on your heart." "So whose head?" "My head's on your heart. I can hear it going. What a big heart you have got, Father dear." So this is what the love, right? The love of father towards the daughter, this little Kezia. I hope that you understood very well. Thank you so much, my dear students. If you have a doubt, ask me. Let's meet next class.